in the 2023 NFL Draft, the New York Jets, Jets, select Will McDonald, linebacker, Iowa State. Let's go! Yeah! Let's go!
Welcome to Jets Overtime Special Draft Day 1 recap. Ethan Greenberg, Eric Allen. Incredible performance, an electric performance, in fact, by that guy right there, Kyle Stickles. Talk about electricity. That's exactly what the Jets added on their defensive line. The 15th overall pick, Will McDonald, linebacker, really a pass rusher out of Iowa State.
Kyle brought the enthusiasm, and that suit was sharp. The great green tie. Will McDonald, going to the Jets, 15th overall. You know what he brings to the table? The guy can get to the quarterback. Robert Saleh wants to get to the head of the snake. The Jets have very good cornerbacks on the outside, but the thought process is, hey, listen, this is a passing league, the National Football League, and you can't get the ball to your playmakers if we're in the offensive backfield. You're talking about Will McDonald, 34 sacks at Iowa State, 42 tackles for loss, and 10 forced fumbles. The thing to consider here is with Aaron Rodgers on board, the Jets are thinking that next year in the fourth quarter, they're oftentimes going to be playing with a lead. So unleash the hounds, go get the quarterback, and Will McDonald, he's got rare athleticism, bend, twitchy, explosive.
Daniel Jeremiah, NFL Network, said that guy, Will McDonald, the newest New York Jet, has the best bend out of anybody in this draft class. Again, he was the 4th edge rusher selected. He caught up with Caroline Hendershot earlier, and we'll hear from her shortly. But with Will McDonald, he had 34 career sacks at Iowa State. That's tied for the most in Big 12 history, one more than Von Miller, who's a pretty good NFL player.
Yeah. And
not to say that he's going to become Von Miller, of course, but the college production definitely there.
No, the production's there. In 2020 and 2021, I think he combined for 21 and a half sacks. But last year, you saw Iowa State moving him across the line. He played inside a little bit more, I think. And then, you know what he's going to be doing in the National Football League early on in his career? He might not be playing first and second downs. It's when this defense, which was a top 5 unit last year, starts throwing their speed packages on the field. You add him to the equation. Now think about it. Quentin Williams had 12 sacks last year, leading the way. One of the finest young defensive tackles in the National Football League. You signed Quentin Jefferson. Most recently played with the Seattle Seahawks, a veteran, so you fill a hole at the defensive tackle position. Of course, Sheldon Rankins and Nathan Shepard departed in free agency, but specifically, let's talk about the outside. Carl Lawson, 7 sacks last year, one of the better disruptors in the NFL. Joe Douglas also used a first-round pick in 2022 on an edge pass rusher, moving up to get Jermaine Johnson. Bryce Huff, he is explosive as heck, great bend. Every time he got in the game, it felt like he was productive, and you just add another guy to the mix in Will McDonald, a guy who the Jets, for their money, this was their best top pass rusher in the entire draft class.
That's exactly what Robert Saleh told me earlier tonight when I caught up with him. But right now, let's hear from Caroline Hendershot, who caught up with Will McDonald.
Joined by the newest New York Jet, Will McDonald. Will, congratulations. How does it feel to be drafted at number 15?
It's a big honor. I'm glad Coach, put his faith in me. So I definitely won't let anybody down. I'm going to play up to my best potential and do what I got to do. Just being around the vets, learning a lot of knowledge and, just doing what I got to do. But, yeah, I'm real glad. It's a big, honor for me. I definitely wasn't expected, but, I'm able to get my opportunity now. And so I'm just able to maximize it.
Wasn't expected, but here you are becoming a New York Jet. What are you most excited and what are you most looking forward to?
Just playing with my boys, Reese and Allen there. And then, I grew up watching Aaron Rodgers. Just being able to play with those cats, I'm able to learn, so much. in my rookie year. So definitely going to be a good group to be around, those type of people. And so yeah, I'm just happy that I'm already kind of familiar, with the team, and I'm just able to coach put his faith in me.
I know you just mentioned two former Cyclones. Brees Hall just tweeted out it's New York Cyclones now between you, Alan Lazard, and himself. How excited are you to kind of reunite with some of your former college teammates and just some old familiar faces?
I'm very very excited. I just got off the phone with Brees earlier this morning, and we had talked for a little bit, and then after when I got the call, I was on the phone with him too. So. We was all happy, we was all just like jumping around and everything. I was here with my family, and family and friends, and it's a real inspiring moment for me. So, I'm able to show everybody that they can be able to do it and create a different path for my family.
I know this has been a long journey for you. If you could kind of go back and tell your younger self that you would be entering the NFL and your dreams came true and you got drafted, what would you tell your younger self?
I mean, I wouldn't tell him anything. I'll just let him go, persevere through whatever he had went through. Because I don't want to change up the course. I just want to. Everything that I went to up to this point, it was for a reason, and it all paid off. So, I'll just let him lead his way, and I'll let him go his own path.
Who are you celebrating with tonight? I know you and your mom have been tight through all of this. Is she there tonight?
Yeah, my mom, my dad, my family, my girlfriend's here with me, and my coaches and everything. I'm at Coach Campbell's house right now, so.
Well, Will, congratulations on becoming a New York Jet. We'll let you get back to the party, but we appreciate the time.
Yeah, for sure. Appreciate it. Thank you.
Awesome, Caroline. Great stuff. Taking a look at Will McDonald, the fourth, the newest New York Jet, the 15th overall selection in the 2023 NFL Draft. Taking a look at what he did at Iowa State, three-time first-team All-Big 12. He has 34 career sacks. That tied a Big 12 record, like I said earlier, just one more than Von Miller's. And he switched from linebacker to defensive end middle of the 2019 season. All right, let's head out to MetLife Stadium. We're joined by linebacker Bart Scott. Bart, what is your initial thoughts on the 15th overall pick, adding Will McDonald, the fourth, out of Iowa State?
What's up, guys? I don't know if you can hear me. I can hear you briefly. But that's what it's supposed to be, right? It's supposed to be pandemonium. The energy in this stadium is electric. And I think Joe Douglas and Robert Saleh knocked it out of the park, bringing in a tremendous pass rusher in a league that you can never have enough pass rushers. It was a big run on offensive linemen. This is an athletic kid, 34 sacks, tremendous knee bend, a finisher at the point of attack. I think Joe Douglas, Robert Saleh did a tremendous job. This is a tremendous pick. A lot to be excited about in Florham Park.
Bart, can you have enough edge rushers in this Jets defensive system?
I lost you. I didn't say I couldn't hear you. You got to blow my eardrum out. You can never have enough pass rushers in a system, especially when you talk about the NASCAR package, being able to kick Franklin Myers inside, Quincy inside, Quinnen inside, blitzing through A-gaps. It gives you a plethora of athletes to go on the field. You expect to be playing with the lead with A.A. Ron, and you need closers.
Bart, Daniel Jeremiah on NFL Network was saying this system in particular he felt fits Will McDonald well, being able to have a long runway. Can you talk about a little bit about what the Jets want to do up front and why Will McDonald fits that?
Well, he fits with the athleticism. And you think about U games and his athleticism, you see him jumping over cars. That shows you that he's not afraid to fall on his face, first of all, but also that he's very twitchy. So you talk about U games, me games, stunts, looping him around, presenting, bare edges and having him loop around on the other side. We saw Quinnen do it beautifully last year. And this just gives you more opportunities to run games and to continue to confuse the offensive line, trying to figure out who's coming, where they're going, and how to pass stunts. Passing stunts is an art, a forgotten art, and I think that Saleh really found an athlete that he can use as a piece.
Why is the wide nine the right system for Will McDonald? Like, if you're talking about a different defensive system, go ahead.
Yes, it's perfect because you have to respect his speed and athleticism. And what that does is potentially gets that tackle open in the gate. And then who do you have over the guard? You have a guy that is a franchise player that's about to get the bag, that had a career year last year. You're going to isolate him on a guy with short arms, fat, that he can overpower, out athleticism all by himself. That's why you want somebody with a wide nine that can bend that corner like Beckham, that can get to that quarterback in 7 steps, and also allowing you to isolate that dog in the middle.
Bart, what's the counterpoint to someone who says, defensive ends seem like a luxury pick for the New York Jets?
Listen, it's about you either convert 4th and 1 or you stop 4th and 1. And you have to have athletes to close the show. That's why Buffalo went out and got Von Miller, because they can put up points, but they can't close the show. And you can never have enough people to close the show. You're relying on Becton, Dwayne Brown, Max Mitchell, Vera Tucker. Vera Tucker is your emergency right or left tackle. He showed you that he can do both at a high level. So when you can go out and improve the defensive line, where guys can go out there and hunt, I just believe the Jets really wore teams down late in the season with their ability to just continue to put fresh bodies out there. They'll continue to maybe try and find somebody in the 2nd, 3rd round. Remember, it's a secondary free agent market out there. You still got Smith that was cut from the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. You have veteran guys out there to get that depth, but the talent was too much to pass.
Bart, what surprised you over the first 14 picks? Does anything stand out?
Well, my Detroit Lions got a good football player, but we saw Pacheco be a 7th-round draft pick and lead the Kansas City Chiefs to the championship. Surprised that we have 2 running backs off the board so early. But listen, those guys have to live with that pick. We know that running backs can have instant impact. I just think that you look at what happened last year with Breece Hall and Kenneth Walker III, and let you know that it's a lot of quality depth that can help you win games in the other rounds. The other positions are a lot harder to find.
Where do you think the Jets will pivot to here in round 2 on day 2?
Well, I think maybe they need some beef. Where's the beef, right? And they're going to need some beef in the inside to go next to Quinnen. They're going to need some beef in there. They lost Sheldon Rankins. They got to go out in that market again and find some quality defensive tackles, because if you can't stop the run, you don't get the opportunity to rush the passer.
Bart, this is obviously a very exciting time for the New York Jets. Aaron Rodgers introduced yesterday. Will McDonald, the newest Jet. You're at MetLife Stadium. Can you sense a difference being around the fans right now?
It's crazy. Like, if you guys were here for the warm-up before the pick, it was electric. Guys are really losing their damn mind. And I'm just trying not to catch a stray out here, because they are all over the place, man. They're having fun. We got people jumping on the stage, throwing their kids on the stage. Man, I'm just out here. I hope don't nobody call Child Protective Service, because I didn't incite this crazy mob.
Hey, it's great seeing you, and I love that sweatshirt, by the way, Greens.
Bart brought the heat with the words and the apparel as well. Bart, appreciate your time. Get home safe.
Thank you.
You're watching Jets Overtime Special, presented by Dunkin'. The Jets run on Dunkin'. Ethan Greenberg, Eric Allen here in studio, now joined by NFL Network's Judy Batista. You don't have to hold up the mic pack like Bart did.
That was fantastic. I loved it.
Great teammate. Great teammate, Bart
Pure
Scott is.
entertainment.
I also like the vintage sweatshirt. I liked it. That was good looking.
It's a very good look.
Yeah.
And the New York Jets, like we were talking with Bart, added Will McDonald IV to the defensive line. Before we analyze the selection, when you see the Pittsburgh Steelers trade up to 14 right in front of the Jets, does your mind immediately go, also, they are taking Broderick Jones?
Yes, because the only reason to jump ahead was, you assumed that the Jets would have taken Jones if he were available. So the only reason to jump them is to get him. So yes, as soon as you saw that, you knew, well, that's, the end of sort of the very top tier of offensive linemen. And then, especially because it took so long, they were on the clock almost the entire time. So then you thought, are they going to trade? Which Joe Douglas indicated there were phone calls about trades. And then they made the pick, which, look, it was a surprise, no question about it. But they made a pretty compelling case for why they went in that direction, you know, shoring up what is already a really strong room of edge rushers. You know, you don't think they need one, but, you know, he made a good case for it.
So Aaron Rodgers, big role in this pick
Yes.
because the Jets swapped their first round picks going back from 13 to 15. If they stayed at 13, hey, maybe there is an offensive tackle on the board. In this case, what we saw tonight, there would have been. With that being said, something that stood out to me was both Joe Douglas, Robert Saleh said tonight, we expect to have fourth quarter leads next year, and we want to get to the head of the snake. We want to get to the quarterback. This guy can get to the quarterback.
Yes, I mean, they're basically saying, well, look, every decision is now being informed by Aaron Rodgers here, right? I mean, whether you're choosing a guy on offense, getting him a weapon, or a guy who can protect him, or in this case on defense, because they're right. You're going to have more leads late in games, and so teams are going to be in passing situations. And as Saleh said, you know, we come at you in waves, right? They want fresh legs. They believe they're going to have opportunities to get after the quarterback late in games, so they're going to need fresh legs. It was a pretty compelling case they made. This guy is super productive in college. Not just 34 sacks, but he had 5.5 forced fumbles in 2021. That's crazy productive. So he's a really productive guy. They made the case, you know, he's going to have to put on weight, as almost everybody does when they come into the NFL. He's a pure pass rusher. They're probably going to need to get him to work on first and second down a little bit. But it's a good argument for why you would pick what you would think is not a position of need, because why wouldn't you want more edge rushers? That's the way the game is being played, right? I mean, you've got to get to the quarterback. You're in the AFC where there are dominant quarterbacks, and you're trying to win a Super Bowl right now in the next year or so. So you're going to have to figure out a way. How are you taking down Patrick Mahomes? How are you going to take down Justin Herbert? And all of the rest that you'd have to get to.
I think you're making a pretty compelling case for the Will McDonald selection on top of Joe Douglas and Robert Saleh.
Yeah, look, there's no question that the Jets are going to have more leads in games this year, right? And when you have leads and when teams are playing from behind, they have to pass, right? So you've got to get to that guy. And they're right, like, guys get tired. I mean, we see this every game, right? Where you're late in game, if they're rushing the entire game, guys get tired. You know, I give them credit for sticking to their board. And look, if they think this is the best guy, I think they believe he was sort of maybe misevaluated or underevaluated. If that's the case, then okay.
There's a couple things that social media Jets fans are being vocal about right now. He's 23 years old. But this is a guy who hasn't played too much football, if you look back.
Only started late in high school.
Yeah, junior in high school.
Yeah,
He's a basketball player.
Very unusual.
So with the age thing, I get it. He's 23. But there's reason to think his best football is definitely in front of him. This is not a finished product. And he doesn't have to be a finished product right now because he's not going to be playing first down. He's not.
No, right.
You're going to put him in, as our buddy the Matt Becker says, the NASCAR packages. He's going to have those speed rushers.
I love that term, the NASCAR package.
The Y9. The other thing is I have to ask you about the offensive line. Do you think this automatically becomes where the Jets are going to go on day 2? And also, let's go back to Rodgers. Doesn't Rodgers make the offensive line better, no matter who's out there?
Yeah, I mean, yes, obviously. However, he is also approaching his 40th birthday quarterback, and so you want to do everything you possibly can. I mean, yes, he is very good at eluding a rush, obviously. We've seen a zillion plays break down and him moving and throwing against his bodies and all of that. It's crazy. Having said that, you would prefer to protect him as much as you possibly can. Do they have to get an offensive lineman? I mean, I think the question is, how do they value the rest of the offensive linemen, and how is it going to match up with where they are? They don't have that many picks.
That's right.
Right? I mean, they've got one pick they've got in the second round, no picks in the third round right now. So my first question is, are they going to try to pick up more picks? So I think we'll see how they evaluate. Again, you don't want to take a guy just because you feel like, we got to get an offensive lineman. There are other I mean, look, they could make a trade later on, post-draft. I mean, there are other ways to do it. Certainly I think we would all feel better, like if you got an offensive lineman here somehow, some way, but, they obviously evaluate them differently than we do, and they clearly did not think it was worth trying to move up to ensure that they got one in this group.
I wanted to ask you both that. The way Joe Douglas just answered that question with the media downstairs, hey, I'll always take the phone call. I think he's going to be looking for more picks. Bottom line.
I agree. Having 5 picks in a draft is very few.
Yeah.
I would expect that tomorrow they'll try to pick up some more picks, and then again you see how they value some of the later round offensive linemen. I think we would all. It seemed like such a natural thing. Oh, get that offensive tackle. You just got the superstar quarterback. Perfect. It doesn't always fit that way. That is the price you paid for getting Aaron Rodgers. I think
right.
As soon as they flipped the picks, you thought, they just dropped behind some teams that needed. So you knew this was a risk. There is a price to be paid when you're getting a player of that caliber. The priority was getting the player of that caliber, and you got Aaron Rodgers.
All right, so one thing I just wanted to bring up, since it is the draft, and the draft is going on right now, the Buffalo Bills just selected Dalton Kincaid, the tight end out of Utah, so that's a new wrinkle in the Bills' offense that the Jets' defense, including Will McDonald, will need to account for. But, I wanted to leave you with this, Judy, talking about the offensive line still. Bart Scott mentioned this, and I think it's something interesting to bring up. He said Elijah Vera-Tucker is your swing tackle. He's your starting guard, but he has shown and proven that he could start at left tackle or right tackle. Knowing the way the Jets' offensive line is constructed right now, where you have a lot of pieces on the interior specifically as backups, do you agree with that statement that Elijah Vera-Tucker really is your security blanket? So if, God forbid, someone did get hurt, you'd feel okay even though there'd be a lot of movement going around?
I mean, certainly Bart knows it all better than we all do, but okay, I'll take his word for it. Like, that makes me a little bit nervous. That feels like a very thin security blanket. You want him to play his best position, right? Ideally, he's playing his starting position.
I had one final one.
Okay. The hammer.
As far as some of these guys drafted after Will McDonald.
Let me see who you got. I haven't seen the list.
Here's Washington, Emmanuel Forbes, cornerback, Mississippi State.
Right.
New England goes Christian Gonzalez, cornerback, Oregon. Detroit goes Jack Campbell, linebacker, Iowa. Kalijah Cansey.
Jets fans are probably looking at Kalijah Cansey, thinking the way the D-line's constructed.
Right.
And then you had the run
Then the run on wide receivers, really late. Yeah.
JSN from Ohio State, Seattle.
Boy, Zay Flowers to the Ravens.
Yep. After Lamar Jackson.
It's a very good day to be a Baltimore Ravens fan. Like, you're probably feeling much better right now.
But I just look at all these names and say, I totally see as far as where the Jets are and how their roster is constructed and the way they run their defense, why Will McDonald makes perfect sense.
Yeah, I agree. I think for me, when I look at the players you just said, and I look at the Jets roster, I feel like, Judy, I wonder if you agree with this. Like, it wouldn't surprise me if the Jets went in any direction. I mean, there are certain positions where maybe like cornerback, for example, Jets fans would kind of like scratch their head, be like, I think you're pretty set there. Although, who's behind DJ Reed and Sauce Gardner? That's a debate for potentially day 2 or day 3 as the Jets move on for the draft. I don't feel like there'd be a ton of positions that wouldn't make sense for the Jets.
Right. I don't think there's a lot of luxury picks. Let's put it that way. I think, especially, again, you are trying to load up right now. So any way you can strengthen the team right now is what you want.
Awesome, Judy. Thank you so much for your time.
My pleasure.
Wearing your purple, good day to be a Baltimore Raven. Also
a
good day to be a New York Jet. You got to be there for the unforgettable moment this season with Aaron Rodgers, number 8, by the way, and the New York Jets. You can lock in your seats at nyjets.com/tickets. All right, now we like to do this every show. We're going to do our socially speaking segment, so let's hear from Caroline Hendershot.
All right, EA and Ethan, I know you guys are excited. I'm excited. I'm going to rapid fire show you who else is very excited. That's our players. They're reacting all across social media. I'm going to rapid fire show them up to you, and then I'll bring you in for the last one. But first and foremost, DJ Reed, right off the bat saying, yes, sir, as soon as Will McDonald became a Jet. Next one coming right up, Sauce Gardner. he was through the roof as well, saying Will McDonald is a dog. Our defense just got better, so another defensive guy hyped for the Will McDonald edition. Next, his former Cyclone, Breece Hall, saying New York Cyclones. Now that's not only Breece Hall and Will McDonald, you also got Alan Lazard, who was also pumped. He said, I'm about to cry. Is this real life? It really is New York Cyclones. But last but not least, you got to look at the Cyclones football. They tweeted out this picture of Will McDonald. EA, Ethan, the picture says it all. Am I right? What a moment.
Yeah, I think that for every player, I love what you just showed at the end right there, because that's the moment, right? Like, that is the moment that your dreams come true as a football player. And for Will McDonald, look how happy. Whoever is right behind him is absolutely stoked. His face is about as red as the shirt in front of him. I love it.
Yeah, it's definitely a great moment. I totally understand why he's feeling at home already. As Caroline just articulated, listen, you got Alan Lazard here, former Cyclone. Breece Hall, the Jets struck early in the second round last year, taking the very impressive running back from Iowa State. This second consecutive year now that the Jets have taken an edge in the first round, because Joe Douglas moved back into the first round last year. His final of the 3 first-round picks, Jermaine Johnson out of Florida State, and the Jets have high hopes for him in the second season.
Back-to-back years, defensive end in round 1, back-to-back years. A Cyclone ends up in New York in green and white, and Joe Douglas did say that that program is extremely well-rounded. I don't remember the exact terminology, but he said, you know what you're getting from an Iowa State football player. All right, here we go. This is what I wanted to show earlier in the Jets Overtime Special presented by Duncan, because the Jets had the 15th overall pick after the trade with the Green Bay Packers that brought Aaron Rodgers to New York. Lucas Van Ness ends up being the 13th overall pick. You take a look at pick number 14, the Pittsburgh Steelers leapfrog the New York Jets, according to Judy Battista, and that's what Daniel Jeremiah said too. Why else would you trade up in front of the New York Jets? Because you know Joe Douglas would probably want to add some beef up front. What stands out to you in picks 1 to 14, other than, let's say, as the Jets pick got closer and closer?
Well, the first thing is Houston goes back-to-back, right? They take C.J. Stroud, and then they come right back into that third slot with that trade with the Arizona Cardinals. Speaking of the Cardinals, I didn't expect Paris Johnson to go that early. I'm not saying that's a bad pick at all at number 6 overall, but when he came off the board, there was a little bit of some space before the next tackle went. And actually, the next offensive lineman was Darnell Wright out of Tennessee.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So he goes, and then shortly thereafter, you're talking about Skoronski, who Tennessee's sitting there and saying, we never thought this guy's going to be on the board.
And they just let go of Taylor Lewan this offseason.
Yeah. And
makes a lot of sense.
And then the Steelers, of course, 14 with Broderick Jones. But, hey, the Jets are off and running the 2023 draft.
All right, before we wrap up here, let's take a look at what's going on. The rest of the picks for the New York Jets. Again, 1 pick on day 2 as it stands, pick number 43. 3 on day 4, pick 112, 143, and 170 acquired from the Green Bay Packers. So let's take a look at some potential players who may be available day 2 for the New York Jets. Earlier, you're talking about defensive tackle. That could be a pick for the New York Jets. Kalijah Cansey off the board to the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Perhaps a guy like Keanu Benton, Mozzie Smith
out of Michigan. Yeah, I'm watching those Big Ten defensive tackles.
Yeah, also, we'll see what happens, because with the draft, it's so unpredictable. But we're off and running here for Jets Overtime. This is the Overtime Special. That was a day 1 recap. We'll be back right here for day 2. Will McDonald, the newest New York Jet.